Iron Man 2 is a 2010 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Iron Man, produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Paramount Pictures. It is the sequel to Iron Man and the third film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Directed by Jon Favreau and written by Justin Theroux, the film stars Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man, alongside Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Scarlett Johansson, Sam Rockwell, Mickey Rourke, and Samuel L. Jackson. Set 6 months after the events of Iron Man, the film follows Tony Stark as he resists calls from the United States government to hand over the Iron Man technology, which is causing his declining health. Russian scientist Ivan Vanko uses his version of the technology to pursue a vendetta against the Stark family. Development on a sequel to Iron Man began in May 2008 after the success of the first film. In July, Theroux was hired to write the script, and Favreau was signed to return as director. Downey, Paltrow, and Jackson were set to reprise their roles from Iron Man, while Cheadle was brought in to replace Terrence Howard in the role of James Rhodes. In early 2009, Rourke, Rockwell, and Johansson filled out the supporting cast. Filming took place from April to July 2009, mostly in California as in the first film, except for a key sequence in Monaco. It's unlike its predecessor, which mixed digital and practical effects. The sequel primarily relied on computer-generated imagery to create the Iron Man suits. Iron Man 2 premiered at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on April 26, 2010, and was released in the United States on May 7th, as part of Phase 1 of the MCU. It received praise for its action sequences and performances, although critics deemed it inferior to the first film. The film grossed over $623.9 million at the worldwide box office, making it the 7th highest-grossing film of 2010. It received an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects. A sequel, Iron Man 3, was released on May 3, 2013, in Russia. The media covers Tony Stark's disclosure of his identity as Iron Man. Ivan Vanko, mourning the death of his father, Anton Vanko, former Stark Industries employee, sees this and builds the same miniature arc reactor as Stark Industries, blueprints left behind by Anton. 6 months later, to continue the legacy of his father, Howard, Tony reinstitutes the Stark Expo in New York City's Flushing Meadows Corona Park and resists pressure to turn over his armored suits to the government and Stark's rival, Justin Hammer. Stark learns that the palladium core in the arc reactor that keeps him alive and powers the armor is slowly poisoning him, and he is unable to find a substitute, growing increasingly despondent about his impending death and refusing to tell anyone about his condition. Stark appoints his assistant Pepper Potts as CEO of Stark Industries and hires Stark employee Natalie Rushman to replace her as his assistant. Stark competes in the Monaco Historic Grand Prix, where he is attacked in the middle of the race by Vanko, who wields electrified whips powered by his arc reactor. Stark dons his armor and defeats Vanko, but the armor is severely damaged. Vanko explains that he intended to prove to the world that Iron Man is not invincible. Impressed by Vanko's performance, Hammer fakes Vanko's death while breaking him out of prison and asks him to build a line of armored suits to upstage. Vanko decides that unmanned drones are better to eliminate the human factor. During his birthday party, Stark gets drunk while wearing the Iron Man suit. Annoyed by Tony's recklessness, Stark's best friend, U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes, dons Stark's prototype armor and tries to restrain him. The fight ends in a stalemate, and Rhodes confiscates the prototype armor for the U.S. Air Force. Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., approaches Stark. Fury reveals that Rushman is S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Natasha Romanoff, and that Fury personally knew. Howard Stark, who was a founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury, explains that Vanko's father and Howard invented the arc reactor together, but Howard had Anton deported when the latter tried to sell it. The Soviets then sent Anton to the Gulag. Fury gives Stark some of his father's old material. In a diorama of the 1974 Stark Expo, Stark finds a diagram of the atomic structure of a new element. With the aid of his AI, JARVIS, Stark determines it can replace his arc reactor's current palladium core, and successfully synthesizes it. When Stark learns that Vanko is still alive, he goes to Hammer's expo. As Hammer unveils Vanko's armored drones, they are led by Rhodes in a heavily weaponized version of the prototype armor, dubbed War Machine. Just as Stark arrives to warn Rhodes, Vanko takes remote control of all the drones in Rhodes' armor and attacks. Stark Hammer is arrested for breaking Vanko out of prison, while Romanoff and Stark's bodyguard, Happy Hogan, infiltrate Hammer's factory. Vanko escapes, but Romanoff gains access to Hammer Industries software and returns control of Rhodes' armor to him. Together, Stark and Rhodes defeat Vanko and his drones. Vanko dies by suicide by blowing up his suit and the drones. At a debriefing, Fury informs Stark that because of his difficult personality, intends to use him only as a consultant moving forward. Stark and Rhodes receive medals for their heroism. In a post-credits scene, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Coulson discovers a large hammer in a desert in New Mexico.